First, introduce your name.
I'm Murray Arkin. I was born and raised in Savannah. The way I got to Savannah, my father was born and raised in the Shtetl area, and he didn't like it there. They were a fairly prosperous Jewish family there, and they owned a manufacturing plant or something, and it was very few of them left. They thought they had it pretty good, but my dad didn't like it there, and thank God he came to this country. And he went to New York, where he met my mother, who came, I just don't know, she came from Vienna, I think, and she came here. I don't know too much about her past history. There was a man by the name of Wolf Walensky who eventually moved to Miami, but he was in Savannah at the time that Dad got to New York, and Dad worked in New York for a while. And Mr. Walensky was a friend from the old country, and he told him he could get him a job in Savannah that was much better than, and so Dad came down here, and I'm not sure whether he was already married or whether he married. He went back to get married, but he brought Mother here, and we've been in Savannah. I think my oldest sister would be in her 90s, and she was born in Savannah. So I was born. I have a brother that was born here and another sister that went. And incidentally, that we all ended up living in Savannah, which is very unusual these days. But Mr. Walensky brought him down here, and he got some kind of job. I forgot. I think it was Bernstein, but I'm not sure of that. And eventually, he went into the ladies' clothing business and was a dry good merchant out of ladies and children's ready to wear. I think he did fairly well, but the Depression got him. He had just gone into a very big store, an expensive store, and he lost it all. Then from then on, he was just got a little store and was. He did all right by all of us, thank God. But he was just all right.
Do you think it was hard for Jews to find professions other than the Jew store or the mercantile or the dry goods? So many of the people I talked to, their parents opened either a grocery or a schmata store. Was there a particular reason why Jews gravitated to those, or?
There was nothing else. The opportunities were very limited. When I was fairly active in Savannah in the Jewish community, and when I was president of the Federation, I was very interested in bringing Jews to Savannah, and computers were just coming. Anyway, Irv Giffen was the director here, and we sent letters to all the college graduates and people that were going to graduate to find out why they're not coming back to Savannah. And it was a pretty good study. I remember one person says, "I hate my mother." So I mean, we got all kind of answers, but most of them were, you could find a place for a neurophysicist in Savannah, and I'll be happy to come. And if you didn't go into medicine or law or accounting, or your father didn't have a good business, there wasn't much else here. And also the education system was not all that good, the public education system. And a lot of the kids said they wanted their kids to get a better education, and they didn't think they could afford private schools and so forth.
I'm going to jump ahead, and then we'll go back to your childhood growing up in Savannah. But you mentioned about being active, and one of the things that I've noticed is so many of the people that I've talked to, they weren't just, taking care of their own families. They were active in leadership, both in the Jewish and the secular community. Can you tell me a little bit something about the kinds of leadership roles that you took and what your occupation was? And then would you also say, is there something about being Jewish that led you to want to do more than just earn a paycheck?
I'm not sure about the last one. I came back to Savannah. I was a physician. I had been away from Savannah from 1945 until 1958 with college, medical school, Army, and residency and postgraduate training and so forth. And I came back and I opened a little office by myself in 1958. Most of the doctors at that time, there was a lot of charity work. There was no Medicare, and a lot of charity. And most of the Jewish doctors at that time did a lot of free work. And they felt as though that was enough. That was charity. You know, we would go to them for UJ and so forth, and they say, I take care of X amount of people every year, and that's, well, I just didn't feel like that was enough. I said, you know, there were merchants. Everybody else did a lot of things too, and they still gave money and so forth. And I got fairly active in something which I hate to do now, is that collect money. I remember there was one doctor, they called me a mashulach. Every time I came, I was asking for money. But we needed it, and I felt as though I could do my charity work and still be active in the community. I was born and raised in Savannah, and I lived at the Alliance when I was a kid on Barnard Street. I got all my hot showers there, and it was just a wonderful place, and I remembered it, and I loved it. My life was very Jewish until I went in the Army and so forth. Most of my friends were Jewish. I was an AZA, Troop 2, Boy Scout, all that was Jewish and so forth. And most of my friends were Jewish. So I got more active in the Jewish community. Later, I got active in the medical community too. There was a lot of administrative stuff that was going on, and I was interested in the well-being of the hospitals and so forth. When I came back to Savannah, Memorial had just opened up a short time ago, and I just didn't think that some of the doctors should be doing some of the things they were doing at the time. It was a pretty loose, and Memorial did a lot to control that, and I got very interested in Memorial. I had a teacher in Chicago where I trained who said he's going to reopen a medical school. And I just didn't believe him, but he did it. And I always thought I'd love to see Savannah have a medical school. And we worked at that too. And I had a lot to do with medical education at Memorial and credentialing and so forth. And I just got busy with that, and I was chief of staff there, and I also was on the board there, and I was also chairman of the board at Memorial. So that was basically my community work. The Alliance and Federation, I think I went through Federation. It was, everybody wanted to do that. It's a different story. You got to beg people to be on, but they were very select, and you had to want it, and to be officer, you had to work your way up. It wasn't like you became president in 2 years. You were secretary, you were this, and you were, and I did Federation first, and I became, eventually worked myself up to president. And one of the highlights of that presidency was that Yitzhak Rabin came to Savannah, and he visited us, and we spent about 2 or 3 days with him, and we had a big affair here at the JA and so forth. And that was very exciting to me. And I mentioned the fact I was interested in bringing Jews to Savannah and so forth. Then I went through the same thing with the Alliance. My wife, God bless her, she was just so active in everything. I mean, I was surprised because I brought her from a big city. She didn't know anybody here, and she really didn't want to come. But she got very involved with the JEA, and she was chairman of the activities we would bring about once every month or so. We would have a cultural arts thing, and I always tell the story about 5 or 6 years after we were still in it and involved. She asked me to call a friend and get him to renew 2 season tickets, and he said, "Murray, I don't think I'm going to renew this year. I was out of town for a couple last year, and I just don't think I said, "Fine, I'll tell June." within 2 minutes, my phone rings again, and the guy says, "I'll take 2 tickets." So that was June. She was very active and very supportive of all the things I did. I mean, you know, my wife could have told me, "You're way too much," and I would have changed, but she was just as active as I was, and Hadassah was just everything to her. It's terrible what's happened to her because she just doesn't care about those kind of things now, but she was very, very active. And what else can I say?
Let me go back and tell me about growing up Jewish at the JA. How did you mentioned about taking hot showers, and a few people have mentioned that. So just for any young people who are watching this, did you have hot and cold running water in the house?
Yeah, but it was in a bathtub, and it was inconvenient and all, and this was a nice shower stall with some tile, and it was just nice. And we played a lot of, I mean, there was a reason to take a shower. In other words, we played basketball there, we played softball inside, we played handball, and we played ping pong. And I just sort of lived there. It was school, Hebrew school, and the JEA.
So you mentioned Hebrew school. So you had formal Hebrew education, I would assume, through bar mitzvah, and then did you continue on through confirmation?
A little bit more, but we used to, Hebrew school was 4 days a week, and it was an hour and a half, 2 hours every day that it was, and I don't think I know nearly enough. I think I should be able, with all the education I had and everything I did, I don't know why I can't speak Hebrew fairly well now, and I don't know why I don't know as much about the Chumash as I should or anything else. Now, I'm not as I just don't do enough of it anymore, but I did it pretty good for a long time there.
Now, someone told me that the Hebrew school actually was on Hall Street, that it was not at the JA?
No, it was not at the JA. My Hebrew school was at the B.B. Jacob first, and then a man named Sam Blumenthal donated a home on Hall and Abercorn Street, and that became the Hebrew school for everybody then. And it was there for quite a while, and then it may have ended up later at the JEA and so forth.
Now, did you cross-socialize with people from other synagogues when you were young?
I'm going to tell you something.
Okay.
It's very interesting. There are people my age, Jewish people that went to the Mikveh Israel, my age, that I didn't know till I was an adult.
Do you think
There were some I knew. Sylvan Bick I knew him. He was a friend of mine from high school and so. But generally speaking, they were pretty separate from us.
Was there a reason for that from your point of view?
No, just didn't know any different.
They didn't know. All right, so it wasn't a matter that they weren't welcomed.
No, not to me.
How did you know you were different from the majority of the population? Was being Jewish a stigma? Did you?
It was not a stigma, but it was something I was always aware of. And there was enough anti-Semitism in school, in the Army, that you knew you were different.
Can you give me an example?
Oh, just remarks that were a lot of conversation about the Jews, New York Jews in basic training and all. This is a cracker town, you know. Savannah, Georgia was a cracker town. And we sort of kept together, like we had a little get-to where we had lunch together and so forth. And I had some Gentile friends, but my real friends in my real life was all Judaism growing up.
I spoke to a few people who said that they never experienced any anti-Semitism in Savannah,
baloney.
But then when I asked them what clubs you belonged to,
You didn't belong to any clubs.
They were all Jewish clubs?
Absolutely, the Alliance. The reason for the JEA, the reason originally for the JEA was these people were coming over and there was no place for them to go. The Jewish people, they weren't welcome anywhere else, so they formed the Alliance. And I believe the Workmen's Circle, they couldn't borrow money from the banks, so they formed the Workmen's Circle.
And the Harmony Club?
The Harmony Club was, that was interesting. It was, none of us will remember, none of the Orthodox Jews will remember. It was like a reform. They wanted it to be more like the society, the Blue Bloods, and they had this Harmony Club. But eventually, a few of the more Orthodox and conservative got into it, and it became a big mixture. And I don't think the people that originally joined were at Harmony Club were very happy about it.
Tell me what the experience was like when you had to be, because you went to public school, right?
I went to public school.
So what would happen, for example, if the Jewish holidays kept you out of school? Did the teachers understand?
Oh, yeah. And 4 days of Shavuos, 4 days of Sukkot, 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, 4 days of Pesach. We missed school. And on Rosh Hashanah, Broughton Street was closed. Some for 1 day and some for 2 days. Yom Kippur, Broughton Street was closed.
So in terms of your ability to get a good education, did you have
My education
to
was
work
excellent.
harder, or was it okay that you didn't get the work done?
Well, for that day, I think they allowed for it, frankly. I think they were so used to it that it never was a problem for me.
How did you know when you were younger that you were different, and were you ever afraid that because you were different than the general population in Georgia?
As I grew old enough to realize, I knew I was Jewish. I mean, we weren't the most religious Jews, but we kept the kosher house, and we got a Hebrew, it was, as far as being afraid, a couple of times I got in fights for no reason except that I was Jewish.
You mentioned about your family having stores. Who were their clientele? Was it mostly Jewish clientele, or was
No, it was mainly black. But there was some white Gentile, but not Jewish, no. It
was the relationship between the black community and your relatives a friendly one? Did you?
We made a living from them. It was very friendly. But it was a segregated community. To this day, I'm ashamed of the fact when I opened my office, I wanted to make a living, so I segregated for a very short time.
What would happen if you didn't?
I don't know. I was afraid, though. Things weren't so good when you started out by yourself in a medical practice. The first year, my sisters used to come and sit on the chairs and look like I have a patient. I mean, it really was a tough couple of years there, the first few years.
You've seen so many changes and so many things, both in medicine.
Oh, medicine!
And
I was in medicine at the right time.
Okay, so tell me why. Tell me a
Well,
little bit about that.
From when I started to when I finished, medicine was so much more advanced. I mean, the cardiovascular surgery and all that stuff came when I had a patient with a heart attack at first. They would go to the hospital and stay about 7 or 8 days at bed rest and then go home. There really wasn't much to do, maybe some nitroglycerin or something. But as years went on, they would have surgery, and then they got where they didn't even have to do surgery. They opened the vessels up, and they were home the next day.
You know, I've always as Jewish people, we have a Bible filled with miracles. You're a medical man. You must have seen so many things that seemed like they were just sheer miracles.
Absolutely.
Do you ever feel like you would have wanted to do any other profession? Or did medicine really help you achieve all the things you wanted to achieve in life?
No question, the medicine. When I started out, I took pre-med. I wasn't sure I wanted to be a doctor, an accountant, or what I really wanted to be at the time. Went in the Army. The war was over. It was 1946 when I went in the Army. and I was sent to Japan. And I became a part of the, I don't know how to remember, I don't remember what happened yesterday, but I still remember I was in the 13th Field Artillery Battalion. And we used to get up in the morning, have breakfast and clean up, and then go out, and there was a 105 millimeter howitzer there. And my job was to turn a knob so a bubble went to the middle of the, and then a loud boom. And I did this for about 2 weeks. First of all, I thought I was gonna lose my hearing, and second of all, I was bored stiff. And all of a sudden, they came around and said, anybody know anything about medicine? I said, I raised my hand, I'd had 1 year pre-med. Oh yeah. And they took me in and put me in the medics at the camp that I was in, and the doctor was wonderful there. He was a Jewish guy. And I just loved it. And from then on, I didn't have any problem.
You witnessed other miracles in your life. You witnessed the opening of the camps after the Holocaust. You witnessed the beginning of the State of Israel.
Oh, yeah.
You witnessed the civil rights movement, the
Oh, yeah.
women's movement.
All of it.
Can you remark about something that you felt like you had a personal stake in, and what you would have done to either commemorate or to help with the situation?
Well, I think we all knew the Holocaust. I mean, this business of nobody knowing that the Holocaust was going on is a bunch of nonsense. I was a young kid at the time, but I still knew that something bad was going on over in Europe. And I guess when the war ended, I realized it was worse than I even thought it was. But we knew it was bad. And a lot of things we wondered why they didn't bomb the railroad tracks and so forth. But civil rights, it just sort of, Savannah was fairly smooth. It integrated very nicely. I think there was a lot of integrated areas. When I was born and raised on, my first remembrance was Duffy Street on Abercorn Street. And my house was right across the street from a big black church. It's still there. And the community was a lot more integrated than a lot of big cities where, I told my wife, she didn't know a Christian. she lived in a certain area, Chicago, which was virtually all Jewish. So whenever she talked about integration, because she didn't like, she was upset when she came here. She went to the wrong bathroom a couple of times, and she drank from the wrong water fountain she didn't know from all that stuff, and she didn't like that at all.
I could see her doing that on purpose.
But she didn't do it. I'm not sure it was deliberate. It was just there was the water fountain, so you drank.
Tell me about the JA and the changes over the years. I know that, you moved back and the JA moved to this beautiful facility
I wasn't
here.
here during any of that time.
Right, but at the time that you came back, there were still, maybe not the numbers from when you were growing up, but there were lots of kids all the time, always at the JA.
Yeah.
And
Much more so than now.
much more so than now. And there are other changes too. I know that despite my best efforts, my children are not moving back to Savannah.
None of my children moved to Savannah.
And so is there something as a past leader and as a leader in the community that you can think of that would, besides the jobs, which we already mentioned?
Jobs is number one. Education, public education, I think goes in there. And I don't know, a lot of them just like bigger cities, I guess.
So you stayed in Savannah and you brought your wife to Savannah, big city
Yeah.
wife to Savannah. So
Yeah.
tell me, what is it about Savannah or Savannah's Jewish community that was so special that you wanted to grow up here and you wanted your children to grow up here?
I had a good childhood in Savannah. Savannah's a beautiful city. I love the beach. I thought my opportunities, I knew a lot of people in Savannah, and I thought my practice would grow much faster here than in a strange city. And I still had, there were still some good friends of mine in Savannah when I came back. Irvin Conta, Buddy Portman, and Leon Slotin, and Erwin Mazo, and there were a bunch of people that were still here. It's dwindled since then.
Why is it important for young people to not only participate in activities, but to get involved in leadership?
It makes their lives so much more interesting. And my God, I mean, right now I'm retired. I'm fairly bored, and I'm not happy about it. I just don't feel good enough to go doing things now. But my God, when I was younger, if I wasn't active doing something, either studying for checking your journals or working for the Alliance, I wouldn't have been happy. I think they miss out on a lot when they don't get active in the community and do some other things other than what they do. Whether you're in a store from 9 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon, the evenings you ought to be doing something, I think.
What's your favorite memory of growing up Jewish in the South?
God, I don't know. Many good memories. I think maybe when Rabin came. It was really exciting.
Why did he choose Savannah? This was not particularly a big city.
1970-ish, 69, 70.
Had you done something
No,
to bring him
no.
here that was special?
Yeah. I wrote him a letter. He was the ambassador to the United States. And I said, Savannah had started becoming a little popular and all, and I invited him to come to Savannah socially. I told him we would have a dinner or something for him, but there was no fundraising, nothing. Just come down and enjoy Savannah, enjoy the history of Savannah and the Jewish community and so forth. And lo and behold, he said yes. And he brought his wife down, Leah, too.
I bet June had a wonderful time showing them around. I can see her in that role.
We had a great time. We really did. One of the things he liked the most was the Mikveh Israel, the museum at the Mikveh Israel, and that tour and everything. We had a hard time getting him out of there.
When you think about Savannah and Israel, has Savannah always actively supported the state of Israel? And can you think of any examples of how campaigns that you did here really were impactful?
Oh, yeah. We were very supportive of Israel. And at the time, I wanted all my money to, when I gave money for the Federation, I wanted it all to go to Israel because they needed it. Years later, I became I forgot what you call it, or something with Hadassah, associate
member.
I was an associate member, and my wife would drag me to Hadassah conventions, and we were at a convention, I think this one was in New York, and they had a meeting for associates, and they started talking. It was about the economy. This was not that many years, I mean, it was 10, 15 years ago, but it wasn't all that long. And they were talking in the billions and how much money, the stock market and everything. And I realized then that our money shouldn't go to Israel anymore, that they didn't need it. It ought to stay in Savannah to make Savannah more Jewish, keep these institutions alive that we were struggling at the time. And I remember coming back and making that proposal, and it didn't get many smiles. But I still feel that, I really feel that Israel, their economy, now what's going on now, I don't know, but at the time, their economy was pretty good. And Savannah we couldn't keep this building open.
There's always the threat of the institutions that you build not being able to sustain themselves.
Right.
What do you think the magic is, as a past leader and somebody who recognizes that not enough people are forced anymore to join the Jewish option, because you can join the YMCA,
right.
There's no reason why you have to, right? Everyone, and Jews are accepted anywhere. So
right.
In some ways, the fact that we're more accepted has maybe led to the dilution of the Jewish community. Is there a solution?
I don't know. We made a big mistake. This building was much too big. And the assumption was it was gonna go on and stay, which it didn't. And then, a number of years ago, when it was time to renovate, they had a consultant come down. And he came to me, and I said, look, we're shrinking. Don't go crazy. I said, if it needs a new air conditioner, let's put it in. If the roof, let's do the basics and maybe paint it a little bit and spend about $1 million. I think they spent $7 million renovating this building or something like that. It was way out of line. And I guess some of the wealthier guys wanted it, but they couldn't sustain it. The electric, this building is, a couple of years ago, I thought we should sell it and get a smaller building that we could sustain, and that was, had one basketball court instead of 2 or 3, whatever they got up there. Because it's just too much building. My God, the electric bill, I hate to think what it is. But I think it was a big mistake. They didn't assume the future was going to be like it is, that people would go to the landings, wouldn't come to the Alliance, and a lot of people that live here wouldn't come to the Alliance. Everybody was a member of the Alliance when I was a kid.
I think models change. I think, models for the way you live your life will change. Are there things about Judaism that you hope will never change?
I don't know. That's a tough question for me, because I go to B.B. Jacob, but I just...
What is the memory that you most associate with being Jewish? Positive memory. Is it family? Is it food?
It's everything. I'm glad I'm Jewish. I really am. I like it.
Is there anything we didn't talk about or that I didn't ask you about growing up Jewish in Savannah that you would like to talk about?
I'm trying to think. I think we covered a lot. Can't cover all. My God, I'm 86 years old. But it was Madison Memorial Hospital, the JEA, Federation.
Childhood friends?
Oh, yeah, childhood friends. I still got friends. I go out every Tuesday night with Charlie Grossman. We were in kindergarten together.
And he tells the jokes?
Well, he talks a lot, but I don't mind listening, even if it's the same thing over and over again. It's just the idea of it. I mean, we've been friends since 80-something years now.
Isn't that remarkable?
He got hit. I had a terrible.
No.
We go out every Tuesday night.
Yeah.
We're not going out tonight because he's hurt. Last Tuesday, I usually pick him up by the shoe.
Yeah.
He's in it, and he is on time. When I say 6:30, maybe 6:31, but he always comes out his door, and I pick him up, and we go out to eat, and then we go home. Last Tuesday was Tisha B'Av. I go by there, 6:30, and I wait till 10 to 7. No Charlie. I said, something wrong. I call him on his phone. He doesn't have a cell phone, but I call him on his home phone. Nobody answered. The answer machine picked up. I go upstairs and I beat on the door. Charlie's 88. I thought maybe he'd fallen or I didn't know anyway. I was very upset. And I didn't know who to get in touch with. I called Carmen, because Carmen's fairly friend, and nobody was home there. So I finally called Mona, his niece, Mona Siegel. She was his brother's daughter. And Mona had broken her ankles or something, and she couldn't. She got petrified, but she said she can't come because she can't walk. So I asked her, did she have a key? And she had a key. So I drove back and I went up there, and thank God nobody was home. But I was still worried. I mean, it just didn't.
Yeah.
Still hadn't gotten. Anyway, found out a little later that he had been around 4 o'clock. He'd been on Drayton and Liberty Street, and there's a stoplight there. He waited for it to change, and he was walking across, and a bicycle came along trying to beat the light and ran into him bad, knocked him down, and really hurt him. and he got in touch with Carmen, I think, and Carmen took him to the orthopedic people and the x-ray and so forth. Nothing was broken, but he
Oh,
had
thank
a
goodness.
bad.
He was, yeah,
He was
banged
bad.
up.
And he's been at Jerry Kaminsky. You know, I don't know if you know that apartment he lives in, but those steps are horrible.
Yeah,
And so he's been at Jerry Kaminsky's house for about a week now,
I didn't realize.
and he was hurting bad. Oh,
Well,
it
when you
scared
see
me.
him, tell him I hope he's
Yeah.
feeling better. All right, one more question.
Yeah.
All right, so you have children, grandchildren. They have not moved back to Savannah.
No, he won't.
But if you have an essence of what Judaism means to you, you know, just like a little nugget of wisdom, what do you hope that is the legacy that you've passed on to your children and grandchildren?
To take care of their children, hopefully to raise them Jewish, and hopefully for them to marry Jewish. I'm not sure it's going to happen, but that's what I want. And they know it. My grandchildren know it. My wife told my granddaughter she had a boyfriend a while back, and is he Jewish? Was the first thing. So I don't know. I don't know what else to tell you. I've had a good life, and I'm very thankful. My children all turned out to be fine young men, and they married Jewish people, and they're not as Jewish as I, you know. I mean, I still have guilt feelings riding on Saturday and so forth. They don't have any of that anymore. They do what they want.
Is there something that you pass on because you're Jewish about being a good person or concentrating on family or ethical living
I don't know
that
if
you
it's
think
Jewish
is
and I think it's me and my family. I mean, I can't attribute that to Jewish. I'm sure it didn't hurt. I mean, it helped being Jewish, I think. But I don't think it was. I think I might have been the same, you know.
What is the thing you're most proud about having lived in Savannah? What is it that you like to tell people about Savannah or growing up in Savannah?
Savannah's one of the prettiest places I've ever seen in my life. I mean, in the spring when those flowers bloom and all, in the marshland, and Savannah's beautiful, and I like it. I like the people. Now, the JEA was very, very important to Savannah. I spent 4 years at medical school in Augusta. I couldn't wait to get out of Augusta. And Augusta's probably bigger than Savannah. But I just didn't like it. It was a different flavor there. There weren't very many Jewish people there, and they didn't have a nice Jewish alliance to go to and so forth, and I don't think they enjoyed. There were some very nice people, don't get me wrong, but
But the ability to have a place where you could
the JEA was
be
very important to me.
communally Jewish.
Absolutely, it was very important to me. In sports and everything else.
Thank you. I think this was a good interview. I
I
enjoyed it.
enjoyed talking to you. I don't.
Thank you.